Good afternoon. Hi to everyone here at the Bear Center and also tuning in on our live 12:30 broadcast. I'd like to thank you all for being here. First of all, we do not have any bears yet, but we have our interns checking them out, trying to lure them down here for some nice enrichment. We like to give our bears enrichment once a day. We also give them other stuff throughout the day, but we like to let people see it here in the viewing area. We like to give our bears enrichment for a few different reasons. One, because it is fun for them, it's fun for us to watch, but it's also very important for their mental stimulation. When animals are kept in a enclosure for a while, they can start to lose some of their mental faculties. Their brains become mush. So to keep them stimulated and happy, we like to give them some toys where they have to work extra hard to get their food. Right on the ground right now, we have a donut that we would fill with some nuts, berries, stuff for the bear to manipulate to get their food out. Just right now, we have some of our nesting ducks here. Winston Churchbill is the male, and Sylvia Quack is the female. Just some fun names as interns have come up for them. And they are checking out the enclosure right now by our little enrichment toy. Holly and Lucky are out in the main enclosure right now. They've had full rain from the night and this morning, and they've been extra close up to each other. This is because it is mating season for black bears right now. Holly is in estrus, or in heat, whatever you would like to call it, and Lucky is very happy to be with her for that. Lucky here and Holly, they are out in the main enclosure, and they are not as food motivated right now. They are not really drive for food. They really want to find a mate and get that mating dance done, if you will. We did get to see them earlier. They came up to the front and they showed off a bit, and then on a few tours they come by. But it is not necessarily the easiest thing to get our bears to cooperate this time of the year. They're not exactly looking for food. Later in the year, they will be very, very food motivated, and that's when they go into hyperphagia. Hyperphagia is a time when black bears are trying to eat as much as possible. Since they don't exactly have a ton of time throughout the year to eat, they only have the summer months to put on all the weight they need for hibernation. They will be eating a ton at that time of the year. Black bears really have a diet mostly of vegetation. Only 10% is animal protein. The rest is nuts, berries, some nice soft leaves, really anything that they can easily digest. They won't really exert themselves much for the food. They're not big hunters. They won't chase something down. But if they do find something easy like a nest or a ground nesting bird or a beehive or ants on a log, they will definitely go for those meals. Those meals are great because they are very calorically dense as well as pretty darn easy for the bears to get. We don't see our bears eat true animal meat often. The only time of the year that that happens would be when fawns are being born. Now, when a fawn is born to a deer, they don't do much for the first week. They really rely on camouflage and they try and be very scentless. But black bears having a sense of smell that is 7 times greater than a bloodhound dog can pick up on that. They'll go looking around. They will get an easy meal. Those fawns don't run away. They'll just kind of stay there and they wait for their mother to come back. But if a black bear finds it, they may make themselves a nice, easy meal. Throughout the year, black bears do not necessarily hang often. Right now is when we see adult black bears hanging out, and that is specifically for mating. They like to keep their own separate territories, like females especially. They will defend each part of their territory for all the resources that it has. Males will walk around trying to find different females throughout the year for mating purposes solely. The only time bears would really be together for a prolonged period of time is when a mother is with her cubs. They have a pretty interesting reproduction cycle, at least I think so. Mating season is right now, so they will find their mate, they will couple up, and the egg will be fertilized. Then a couple months later, before they go into hibernation, the mother will do a check, make sure she has put on enough weight for continuing the development of her baby. If there is sufficient fat to feed both the mother and her cubs, they'll continue the gestation and then give birth in January. But if not, she will reabsorb the zygote inside. That's called delayed implantation. It's pretty cool that bears do that. It's a smart way for the mother to survive and for her kids to survive as well. So right now our waterfalls are off. That's because of a recent power outage we've had here. But we would usually have those on, and it's a very important feature for our bears. Since black bears have a double layer coat, a thick undercoat that keeps them warm, and the outer coat that helps with more protection stuff, they get super hot in the summer. That black thick coat with the sun beaming down on it, it definitely does not stay cool. So they definitely need a place to cool down like this water feature. Our whole main enclosure is completely natural. The only thing that isn't natural is this pond right here. We thought that would have been necessary for a black bear because it would be in a standard black bear territory. The females who hold their territories consist of around 2 to 6 miles, and they will fight for every square inch. When a mother does have cubs and they're female, she will often break a piece of her territory and give it to her female cub. That way, they have a nice little easy start to produce their own young and keep the species going. The males are kicked out, and they're supposed to go find their own ranges and find their own females kind of far away. Black bears have been known to walk for a long time to find a mate or to find food. I mentioned earlier that their sense of smell was super good. There has once been a black bear recorded that traveled 43 miles over the course of 3 days to find a hazelnut stand. Once they got there, they ate their fill and they were on their merry way. They need to put on all this weight for hibernation because their only thing that they lose is their body fat. Their metabolism goes down super low and they've adapted to only burn their body fat. Bone density and muscle density are just as strong as before. So when they come out of hibernation, they're ready to go. There is an interface before that happens. There is a thing called walking hibernation where the black bear will not be fully awake. It will be in a kind of half hibernation state, but that's just while its metabolism builds up and their appetite builds up. When a bear is in hibernation, their stomach actually shrinks. They're not as hungry right now, so we have to pay extra attention when they are first coming up to make sure that we don't overfeed them or make sure we feed them the right stuff. Throughout the year, black bears have a very different diet. Right now in the springtime, they'd be having more of these emergent leaves, some nice tender stuff with the fresh materials from the plant that is growing it, makes it much easier to digest. They don't have a long digestive system like other animals here in the North Woods, deer and moose. They have a more ruminant digestive system, so they can process those tougher plants. Bears don't have that, so they need to go for the easier stuff to digest. Later in the year, it'll be berries and nuts, that stuff, but they don't even digest those fully. That's actually really helpful for the ecosystem here. As they walk around eating their fill, they will deposit their scat, and in that scat there is actually undigested seeds and nuts and such, where the plants can start a new plant. This is really good because the bears need to eat as much as possible, and they remember where they can find their food. So if they hang out in an area, eat all the food there, next year they may be more because of the scat that they deposited. Those bushes that they do eat from, they also do not kill. They'll take the berries off of it without hurting the main branch. If they were to hurt the main branch next year, there would not be as much berries on it. So they have a special adaptation in their mouth called a diastema. And that diastema is one help for cracking nuts, but also helps string off those berries from the branch. I'm gonna take a second here while their other interns are calling for the bears and hope to ask if there's any questions for anybody. So the question was, do they stay with the same mate? Black bears are polyamorous. There have been cases of bears coupling up, finding the same female and male each year, but there is no set, I will stay with you for the rest of my life. They will just go find a mate that is available. There's been many cases of one male mating with multiple females in a year, and that will just kind of work out the way it works out. When males are mating with females, they do this thing called fluttering. I actually saw Lucky and Holly do that the other day. It is when the back portion of the male bear moves really fast to deposit what he needs to complete the mating ritual. Any other questions here for those up on the observation deck? All right. So black bears have some other cool adaptations. It's not just the diastema. They have learned a few stuff. Cedar trees are very important in a black bear's territory, just as white pines are, but I'll talk about white pines in a minute. Cedar trees are really important because of the way that their resin repels bugs. A lot of outdoor furniture is made out of cedar wood because the bugs do not like the scent of it. Black bears will tear off the bark, rub it all over their face, and get covered in that sticky sap. That will one trap bugs that try and sting it, as well as repel bugs from trying to bite them, just like mosquitoes and such. I also mentioned that white pines are very important for black bears. It's also known as like a cub tree. They have canopies that will first give them a lot of shade and also good branches for bears to hang out on for extended periods of time. A female bear will let her cubs hang out by a cub tree, make sure that they're safe there, and she'll go out and forage for more other stuff while they are safe by the cub tree. Any other questions here at the Bear Center? So the question was about delayed implantation, whether the embryo is saved for the next mating time or if it is just reabsorbed into the body. It is reabsorbed into the body. The female will try again next spring to get a mate, and then she will go through her 2-year reproduction cycle again. She will get, she would find her mate, wait till the end of the summer, determine there is enough fat on her to sustain them, and then raise her kids throughout the next year. And then at the start of the next spring, she will kick them out at around 16 to 18 months to be more exact. That's called family breakup, and the male offspring are kind of forcibly kicked out, and the female offspring are given their own special place in the mother's territory. Black claws are also super adapted for climbing. I mentioned that with the white pine, but they also climb for their food. If there is, let's say, a big wasp nest or a beehive in a tree, they will certainly climb up for it just to get that nice, rich larval state. They don't really care for the honey. We like to drill holes in some of our trees up in the front, and that way we can put food in them, and bears will have to forage and give more of a natural experience. We also have a food trolley here. If there was a bear here, hopefully we'd be able to get them to climb, but that will give them a more exciting way to get their food, make sure they're physically active, make sure they're mentally stimulated, all different ways to make sure that our bears here are happy and healthy. It seems like we have some bears. For those here at the Bear Center, if you look over at the white pine over there, the one that is dead in the top half, you can see some red vests over there. They're waving to us. And it looks like we got some bears heading in our direction. It looks like we got eyes on some black bears, which is always a treat to see here at the North American Bear Center. First popping out, it looks like we have Holly Bear. She is our 9-year-old female. She is the matriarch of this whole center. She kind of says what goes. She is the boss here. She even slaps around Lucky, who just made an appearance. He is around 440 pounds, and she is 270, but she still shows him who's boss. Looks like they are coming down for some nice snacks that we'll give them, and she is very happy to do so. Lucky is following close behind. He's been like that for the past few days now because it is mating season for these bears. They've been extra close and extra tender with each other, if you will. So now we can see how our bears will manipulate different food items to get their snacks. They will first flip it over, tear it apart if they can, and they'll use it to pick up all the food that they get. One of those is just a random shaped donut, which will it's just fun for the bears to manipulate. And the other white one is supposed to simulate a birch log. A lot of times, tree branches or tree logs will have food inside, and the bears have to tear those open to get their snacks. Lucky he doesn't want to work on his own. He'll probably just take the work from Holly, make it nice and easy for him, and that's part of the reason why we may not see a bear climb this morning or evening, afternoon. There we are. If Holly is at the base of the tree and she knows it's full and Lucky is nearby, she will not climb. That's because she'll do all the work climbing up the tree. She'll knock all the food down, and Lucky will swoop in and eat as much as he can. Bears try to be very efficient when they eat. They do a lot of cost-benefit analysis, as in if we don't have enough food up there, they won't even make the climb, regardless if they're the only ones there. They want to be as efficient as possible so they don't burn all the calories they are just about to eat. When bears climb a tree, they would rather go for a nice hearty meal, so they wouldn't necessarily go for a robin's nest and get only 4 of those tiny blue eggs, and it'll barely even fill their mouth. They'd rather go for the bigger meals, just like a wasp nest or the nesting birds. Well, I have been rambling on for a bit, but you guys are more than welcome to check out our bears for as long as you want. They are going to be here for a bit longer, and they can saunter off whenever they feel like. But for now, I'd first like to thank you all for being here. Thank you all for tuning in for those who aren't, and hope you enjoy our bears.